of all, I want to thank you. I'm Paul Klinger. I am the Business Development Director for LGC. We heard a little bit about the athletes and third-party certification for banned substances and the importance to those athletes, but I want to talk more about beyond the pro athlete. Many times at LGC, we get calls from customers. They were approached by a team or a league, and they were interested in certifying that product for that team. But the thing that they don't always understand is there's a much bigger market for these third-party certifications for banned substances that go well beyond the pro or the elite athlete. So in this section of the presentation, I'm going to go through a little bit about that consumer base, as well as some of the demographics, the challenges that the industry has in terms of trust, as well as what the opportunities are going forward. Just to frame this discussion, just to quickly recap, I think David also mentioned that in his presentation, as far as the market size. The market size for the U.S. Sports nutrition market was about $15.6 billion in 2019. It's expected to be $17 billion this year. And then the compound annual growth rate at 8.9% puts that at about $31 billion by 2027. So the market itself is very significant. And I thought was interesting was 80% of that number is actual sports supplements. So that sports nutrition is broken up between sports drink, sports supplements, and sports food. 80% is actually the sports supplement category. So I'd like to take a look at the sports nutrition growth drivers, that's really driving that growth. And it's really coming from the active lifestyle consumer. IRSA, a couple years ago, produced a report showing that 21% of gym club memberships, or there was an increase of 21% of gym club memberships from 2012 to 2017. That's a 10 million person increase in a 5-year period. The Physical Activity Council in 2018, they conducted a study and found that 64% of the U.S. population ages 6 and up actually participated in some level of high-intensity training, jogging. So there's very active people. There's a changing demographic in the marketplace that are using sports nutrition products. It's not just the elite athletes that are going to these products. These are everyday people who are looking to increase their wellness, increase their fitness levels. They want to look better. They want to feel better. And these same active lifestyle recreational users, they also care about the quality and safety as well. They may not be drug tested, but they do care about what they're putting into their bodies. I attended a conference back in 2016. There was an interesting discussion around the trust deficit and consumer perceptions around the supplement industry. And I found there were some pretty startling numbers. And so as we start looking at the expansion of sports nutrition into this broader demographic, it's really important to look at what their perception is. And if you look at these numbers, less than 40% of the people that were surveyed by the NBJ, found that the supplement industry to be trustworthy, which is, I thought, a pretty startling number. When you break that down, 39% thought that supplements are safe to use because they follow strict quality standards, 47% because they have strict control of what's in the supplements, and then 50% follows a strict regulation. So that means half the people don't think that the industry follows those regulations. So what's driving that perception? And, it doesn't take long to find another news story about an athlete testing positive for a banned substance. And, usually the first thing they do is they do blame their supplement. Whether they did or whether they didn't, they're looking for an excuse. In many cases, there was a tainted supplement. Sometimes they just didn't read the label. There are a lot of reasons for their failed drug test, but nonetheless, they did blame the supplement. Yoel Romero just recently won a $27 million lawsuit after he was able to show that supplement caused his failed drug test. So these are the things that consumers are reading from the sports nutrition side. And then even on the consumer landscape, you're seeing news reports being published about how the dietary supplements faces little regulation from the FDA, and that this could be dangerous for those taking supplements. And it's pretty concerning how that's driving that trust deficit down. So what I really want to emphasize here is really the quality assurance that goes behind it, because it's really about rebuilding that trust. Warren Buffett once said it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. And I believe that that's very, very true. So is it perception versus reality? Is there really a problem? And so, looking back at our testing, we've done a number of international surveys, as well as our own internal surveys of brands coming to us for testing. And we found that 1 in every 10 supplements that we have surveyed had some level of a banned substance. And it could come from a number of different sources, but there was an indication that there was a banned substance presence. If you look at our actual findings, 60% of the screening findings we found actually came from the finished goods. 27% of that came from a raw material. A lot of that times that was part of our investigation. If we see that there was a screening indication, we try to find the source of that, and it came 27% of the time it came from that raw material. 13% of the time it came from the swab, so there was a contamination within the manufacturing facility. So there is an issue that quality assurance programs can address. And those sources of contamination, where they come from, the raw materials, it comes from the manufacturer. Sometimes they have very poor quality control there, so you have contaminated ingredients coming in. You have botanical products that have naturally occurring banned substances in them that a lot of brands don't even know. They include an ingredient in a product and they don't even know that it has low levels of a steroidal compound in it, for example. And so we'll see it there. And then manufacturers, of course, poor cleaning practices, improper handling of high-risk banned substances. These are things that we tend to see on a fairly regular basis as the result of that contamination. So third-party certification is more than just testing. And I think a lot of people think, well, we've tested the product, it's clean, now you can put the logo on the product. There's so much more to it. And this is just a summary of just some of the things that Informed Choice, Informed Sport programs follow, as well as I know NSF and BSCG has similar programs. But, it starts with the product ingredient and label evaluation process. We look at all the raw material supplier evaluation, making sure that they have appropriate SOPs in place to qualify their raw material suppliers. We'll verify that they meet GMP compliance. We verify that they're doing label verification, contaminant testing. We review all of the raw materials that they handle in the facility to see if there's anything in there that could potentially cause a contamination. And then we look at all their SOPs to make sure they have all of the appropriate cleaning procedures in place to minimize any risk of contamination. And then, of course, you have regular ongoing certification. So there's so much more to these certifications than just testing. And just as an example, I said 1 in 10 supplements tested positive that we've surveyed. Products that have gone into our program after they've gone through this whole process, we have a 0.1% contamination rate of these finished products that we test. That's 1 in 10,000 finished products we test. We actually see a banned substance. So it really shows that these quality, these quality assurance programs from our third-party certifications really do really do work. Elite Sport, they depend on third-party certification, obviously, because they don't want to fail a drug test. That's the athletes, the organization, and the league. Brands, the brands have to protect themselves from the athletes. They cheat, and they're going to blame that company. So you don't want to be that company that has a product that didn't go through this, that might have a contamination. Their product gets blamed, and that could be very damaging to them as a brand. Manufacturers need to ensure the products they're producing in their facility, are not going to cause that product to fail a drug test. They got to make sure that they're cleaning their equipment properly, that they're sourcing their materials appropriately, they're going through the proper SOPs and protocols. The last thing they want to do is produce a batch of products, send it to the company or send it in for testing. It fails, and now that brand can't sell that product. So this is a risk to everybody from a banned substance side of things, and this really minimizes that risk. So as far as where those opportunities are, third-party certification is more than just testing for the elite sport. It's health-minded consumers. They care about quality assurance. They care about everything. Brands really need to sell that when they're certified in our program. Don't just talk about the product was tested. Talk about everything else that that product went through to become certified, because that matters to that health-conscious consumer, especially if they're not being drug tested. sports nutrition demographics, they're expanding quite a bit. And so these people are typically choosing brands based on their credibility. Is this a trustworthy brand? Do I have confidence in their brand? What's their reputation? And these third-party certifications really emphasize that. And so that's why it's so important to sell that, so they have confidence in the brand and products that they're selling. And then leverage the certification to reach new markets. Many of these consumers in all these varying demographics, they may live in the same home. And so, you've got the, elite athlete, but you have the mom who's trying to, get fit again, and she cares what she's putting in her body. They might have a high school athlete that they're concerned about what they're putting in. So really, when you're selling this and marketing this, go beyond the elite athlete and really focus on, the messaging. And moms control the cupboards. High school athletes, this is the first time they're usually using sports supplements, being pressured to put on weight, increase performance. They're obviously going to be influenced by what they're seeing, the labels, the marketing. The moms are going to be concerned about what's in it. And so this is really important from a messaging standpoint, a marketing standpoint, to get that to her, or because she's the one who's going to be making those decisions on what that could what product their children should use. So really, that was everything that I wanted to cover in my segment. I really appreciate the time to present and to participate in this, and want to thank you. And I guess I'll hand that over to Oliver. Thank you.